Chapter 1435. However, all worryless Nye's records and honors were broken after Nye Linglong entered Scarlet Flame's academy. Now, Scarlet Flame's academy's legend changed from worryless Nye to Nye Linglong, and no one had yet to break the records established by Nye Linglong at Scarlet Flame's academy. Scarlet Flame's academy, Yi Wanwan murmured. She felt her head swell up for some reason and a shredding pain tore through her whole body. It was as though the presence of alcohol in her caused many tattered memory fragments to surface in her mind. In these memory fragments, Yi Wanwan clearly saw the golden-charactered sign of Scarlet Flame's academy as well as some events that happened in the academy. "Are you okay?" Ji Shuran asked as he clapped Yi Wanwan's shoulder when he saw something amiss in Yi Wanwan's expression. Yi Wanwan frowned deeply. Her memories were absolutely chaotic, and she reflexively blurted out, "I think I've been to Scarlet Flame's academy before." A glint sparkled in Ji Shuran's eyes when he heard this. He didn't look away from Yi Wanwan for a single second. This was a symptom of memory recovery. Worryless Nye entered Scarlet Flame's academy 2 times back then. The first time, she used the identity of Worryless Nye to enter Scarlet Flame's academy and became its legend. The second time, she used the alias of Demon to enter Scarlet Flame's academy and transformed from being a student to its chief instructor. However, her identity as Demon the instructor wasn't as famous as Worryless Nye, and very few people knew Demon was Worryless Nye. The second time Worryless Nye entered Scarlet Flame's academy was a flash in the pan, and she was there in name only. She rarely made appearances at the academy. Now, Yi Wanwan suddenly said she seemed to have gone to Scarlet Flame's academy before, a surprise to Ji Shuran. Everyone knew that after memory masking, the old memories were basically erased, and it was very difficult to recover them. Soon, Yi Wanwan regained her wits, and her mind was clearer than normal due to the intense pain in her head earlier. Ji Shuran looked at Ji Lingfei nearby and said frankly, "Give the martial arts conference's invitation to me." "No." Ji Lingfei furrowed her brows deeply. The Ji family's invitations for the martial arts conference were all in Ji Lingfei's safekeeping. Ji Shuran merely extended his hand toward Ji Lingfei. His tone didn't allow for any dissent as he said, "Give it to me." Ji Lingfei was startled. She had rarely ever seen Ji Shuran so serious. It wasn't only Ji Lingfei though, even Patriarch Ji and Madam Ji were surprised. Ji Shuran had never spoken to his sister, Ji Lingfei, with this kind of tone. This was the first time. Yi Wanwan was a bit embarrassed upon seeing this. She didn't care whether she went to an event like the martial arts conference or not. If obtaining an invitation to the martial arts conference would cause Ji Shuran to have an argument with his family, she would rather not go. However, Yi Wanwan didn't dare to say anything, afraid that the conflict would worsen. Moreover, she was a fake, so the more she said, the more likely she'd expose herself, especially in front of someone like Emperor Ji. In the end, Ji Lingfei relented and turned to leave. When she returned, she threw a silver token at Ji Shuran. It was true that Patriarch Ji and Madam Ji didn't want to give the martial arts conference's invitation to President Fearless, but Ji Shuran had to have a reason for his staunch attitude, so they had no choice but to accept it regardless of their displeasure. Chapter 1436. After obtaining the invitation token, Ji Shuran didn't linger at home and left the Ji residence with Yi Wanwan. Soon, Ji Shuran had Skeleton drive them close to Fearless Alliance's headquarters and handed the martial arts conference token to Yi Wanwan. "Keep this somewhere safe. I'll tell you when the martial arts conference is being held. At that time, you can take this token and participate in the martial arts conference as the representative of the Fearless Alliance," Ji Shuran said. "Thanks." Yi Wanwan nodded lightly and carefully put the token away. After Yi Wanwan returned to the Fearless Alliance's headquarters, Skeleton turned to Ji Shuran and said, "Emperor Ji, did you want Miss Worryless to participate in the martial arts conference this time to whiten the Fearless Alliance's name and allow them to become a member of the coalition?" Ji Shuran nodded. "That's right. The Fearless Alliance is in an extremely precarious situation right now. The Fearless Alliance offended too many factions, not to even mention Azura. However, Worryless hasn't recovered her memories yet and can't respond to many affairs, so it's too dangerous for her. Skeleton looked pensive upon hearing that. If Worryless Nya could pass the assessment and become a member of the coalition, then those other factions would have second thoughts about acting against Worryless Nya and the Fearless Alliance. At the same time, inside her office, Yi Wanwan sat and watched the sound asleep virus and Great White. She examined the silver token in her hand as snippets of memories of Scarlet Flame's mercenary guild surfaced in her mind again. Yi Wanwan became more and more puzzled. These memory fragments looked extremely realistic. Why would this kind of memory fragment surface in her mind if she wasn't a resident of the independent state? Could it be, she really was a resident of the independent state? Or she visited the independent state before? If she really was a resident of the independent state, could it be possible that she really was the president of the Fearless Alliance, Bro Flattop? This couldn't all be a coincidence. However, the president of the Fearless Alliance, Bai Feng, clearly had parents. Meanwhile, her grandfather told her her parents had passed away. What exactly is going on here? While Yi Wanwan was drowning in this tornado of thoughts, Big Dipper pushed open the door and swaggered into the office. Damn! When Big Dipper approached Yi Wanwan and saw the silver token she was playing with, his expression transformed instantly. Big Dipper's shout disrupted Yi Wanwan's contemplation. Yi Wanwan looked up and glanced at Big Dipper from the corners of her eyes with displeasure clear on her face. Didn't I tell you to remember to knock when you enter my office? Also, don't freak out like that from now on. However, Big Dipper didn't respond at all and merely stared at the silver token in her hands. A moment later, Big Dipper said, "Damn. Sis Feng, you didn't seriously do that, right?" Yi Wanwan's brows furrowed slightly. She didn't understand what Big Dipper was referring to. "What did I do?" "Sis Feng, it's true that we're robbers, but you dared to steal something like an invitation to the martial arts conference." Big Dipper gave Yi Wanwan a giant thumbs up with respect on his face. "I didn't steal it," Yi Wanwan looked rankled. No matter what, she wouldn't go as far as to steal an invitation. Moreover, this thing was useless even if she stole it. It had to be given to someone else. "You didn't steal it, Sis Feng." Big Dipper looked doubtful. Except for the one time the Fearless Alliance was invited when the martial arts conference was first created, it hadn't invited the Fearless Alliance ever since. Their Fearless Alliance committed every imaginable misdeed possible, so there was no way they would get invited. Chapter 1437. Big Dipper didn't believe her, but Yi Wanwan was too lazy to continue explaining. Big Dipper was full of suspicion. "Sis Feng, you really didn't steal it? Could it be that the coalition really invited us?" "Ji Shuran gave it to me," Yi Wanwan answered. "Damn! Emperor Ji gave it to you." Big Dipper was taken back and astonished. "He wants to humiliate our Fearless Alliance." "Humiliate the Fearless Alliance?" Yi Wanwan stared at Big Dipper. "What do you mean?" "Sis Feng, think about it. Our Fearless Alliance has always been a lone wolf and never participates in the conflicts between the coalition and prison. Additionally, our Fearless Alliance has only participated in the martial arts conference once before and ended up being kicked out. Yet, Emperor Ji gave us an invitation now. I think we'd be better off not participating in it," Big Dipper said. Yi Wanwan had a cursory understanding about prison and the coalition. Many years ago, a faction named Prison single-handedly lorded over the independent state and did whatever they wanted. No other faction dared to provoke them. Later, many powerful factions formed a coalition and waged war against Prison. This war was one of the few large-scale military campaigns in the history of the independent state, and the one who proposed the coalition was the previous president of the Martial Arts Union. After many years of fighting, Prison was forced to retreat, and this was when the Martial Arts Union, which was composed of many great factions, came into power. For example, the four great clans, along with other major factions, were once members of the coalition, but the four great clans left the coalition after the war with Prison concluded and were members in name only. Meanwhile, The other factions that didn't withdraw from the coalition formed the present-day martial arts union. As for Prison, it was the result of three great factions who banded together and formed a super alliance. These three great factions were Slaughter's Gate, Heavenly Hatred, and Azura. People called the alliance formed by these three great factions, Prison, and it was the evilest and most vicious faction in the independent state. Back then, Azura was targeted by the Martial Arts Union since the previous president of the Martial Arts Union wanted to launch a surprise attack on Prison. After Azura was surrounded, both Slaughter's Gate and Heavenly Hatred acted and sent out an immense number of top experts to fight the Martial Arts Union to the death. In the end, both sides were weakened and wounded by the war. After Lord Azura went missing, Prison lost an ally, so they hibernated in their cave and didn't do anything big for many years. Any party who accepted the Martial Arts Union's invitation implicitly expressed an interest to join the coalition and strengthen the coalition's power to prevent Prison from launching a second war. Sis Fong, I'm uninterested in joining the coalition. But if we were to join Prison, that'd be so awesome and impressive. Big Dipper looked very excited. Before Yuanwan could say anything, Big Dipper sighed. However, our fearless alliance wasn't qualified to join Prison even at our peak. Sis Fong, although you're vicious, malicious, and crafty enough, you're no match for the three core factions of Prison, Slaughter's Gate, Heavenly Hatred, and Azura. We aren't on the same level as them. Moreover, the Fearless Alliance instigated a sneak attack on a branch of Azura, which is the same as declaring we're part of Prison's enemy faction. They didn't destroy us, but that's because they consider us ants. Yuanwan glanced at Big Dipper and wished nothing more than to smack his face mercilessly. Who's vicious? Who's malicious? Who's crafty? Doesn't he know how to talk properly? What stung the most was that Azura didn't attack them simply because they were ants to Azura. Chapter 1438. However, even Yuanwan didn't expect Big Dipper's words today to become the truth in the future. The current Yuanwan never would have imagined the Fearless Alliance would seriously sign an alliance pact with Azura, Heavenly Hatred, and Slaughter's Gate under her leadership, allowing the Fearless Alliance to become the fourth member of Prison. Of course, that was future talk. Back in this current moment, Yuanwan put away the invitation token and turned to Big Dipper. Where's the Star Destroyer mercenary team? Big Dipper shrugged and replied, after leaving the manor, the three of them chased after me, asking for money. I ran away and have no idea where they are. Yuanwan, although those three people loved money as much as their lives, she had an employer-employee relationship with them and had to pay the money due to them. Why the heck did they run away? Send them $100,000. The money you conned out of piece of shit last time is just enough, Yuanwan ordered Big Dipper. Big Dipper's expression abruptly shifted, and he rushed to change the topic. Oh right, Sis Fong. I came to see you for official business. Speak, Yuanwan said. Those old geezers want to have a meeting with you. They said something about a big subordinate faction under Azura destroying the territory of a Fearless Alliance branch, Azura's subordinate power. Yuanwan was taken back. Azura's subordinate power destroyed a Fearless Alliance branch. Yuanwan swiftly stood up and headed to the conference room level. At that moment, the conference room was embroiled in a storm of shouts and arguments. Some senior managers suggested launching destructive revenge. Azura might be a core member of Prison, but the Fearless Alliance wasn't to be trifled with either. They could die together if worse came to worst. Other senior managers adamantly protested against retaliation and wanted to just take it lying down. Azura might be strong and a member of Prison, but it was Azura's subordinate faction who eradicated our branch, not Azura themselves. How about we destroy this subordinate power? What a joke. Third Elder Li Si snorted. Don't you know what a subordinate faction is? If we attack Azura's subordinate faction, how could Azura not do anything about it? Only senior managers of the Fearless Alliance were inside the conference room, and they all belonged to different parties, so they all naturally had different opinions. As Yuanwan entered the conference room, the unceasing quarrels dissipated instantly, and the room was enveloped in silence. Yi Wanwan entered the conference room and swept her eyes over everyone before sliding into the chief seat without any hesitation. As she looked at the silent crowd, she wasn't fooled by the surface. Everyone here was secretly operating for their own goals, and they all wanted to find proof that she wasn't the president of the Fearless Alliance and kill her. Yi Wanwan learned some inside information from 7-Star already. In order to prevent the Fearless Alliance from fracturing, they all considered her a chess piece and signed an agreement that stated the first person to prove she wasn't the president of the Fearless Alliance would become the president. Her every decision, her every step, she had to proceed cautiously. Otherwise, the slightest careless mistake would lead to her ruthless demise. All of these higher-ups considered her a chess piece and wanted to use her to advance their positions. But none of them knew that she also considered these higher-ups and the entire Fearless Alliance chess pieces. It wouldn't be so easy to test whether she was the true president of the Fearless Alliance. Chapter 1439 Speak. Yi Wanwan aloofly swept her eyes over Third Elder and the others. Heh. President, you just returned from Azura's conference. Didn't something happen during the conference? An elderly man said meaningfully as he turned to Yi Wanwan. These higher-ups were indeed shocked when they learned Yi Wanwan returned from Azura's conference completely unharmed. Lord Azura actually didn't do anything to this woman despite his personality. But this was good too. If Yi Wanwan seriously died in the hands of Lord Azura, then their detective game would probably have to end. Since Yi Wanwan didn't die, they could continue to search for evidence that Yi Wanwan was pretending to be the president of the Fearless Alliance. What? Did you think something would happen at the conference? Yi Wanwan asked coldly while staring at the elderly man. The elderly man chuckled lightly and shook his head but didn't say anything. Big Dipper told me that a branch of the Fearless Alliance in the Northern District was destroyed by a subordinate faction under Azura. Yi Wanwan got straight to the point. An ineffable smile spread across Third Elder Li Si's face as he nodded. President, the branch in the Northern District had some monetary conflicts with a subordinate faction under Azura, and that subordinate faction relied on the fact that it was under Azura's protection and eradicated our branch. I heard some members of Azura even took part in it. Yi Wanwan was pensive. According to the Fearless Alliance's personality and style, especially President Fearless, this was the same as being ruthlessly slapped on the face. How could they tolerate such shameful humiliation? Who cared whether you were Azura or prison? If you provoked the Fearless Alliance, they'd simply drag you to death with them. Even if they weren't on the same level and couldn't mutually perish with you, they'd at least disgust you somehow. We're stuck in an argument right now. Some higher-ups think that because it's just a branch, its destruction is no big deal. But there are also some higher-ups who think of this as shameful humiliation and say we should retaliate. Of course, we'll allow you to make the final decision, President, Third Elder said with a mocking smile while watching Yi Wanwan. All the senior managers present turned to Yi Wanwan. Regardless of what she decided, it would be fatal to this woman. If Yi Wanwan chose to do nothing, it'd be the same as going against the Fearless Alliance's beliefs and doctrine. It also absolutely wasn't President Fearless' style. However, if she did decide to retaliate, Azura would definitely interfere. This would cause the matter to escalate detrimentally, crushing the Fearless Alliance. No matter what she chose this time, she wouldn't be able to avoid disaster. Yi Wanwan remained silent. After an unknown amount of time passed, Yi Wanwan ended up deciding that she had to seek revenge for this matter. And she had to personally lead the group. First of all, she could assert her dominance. Second of all, she could test Lord Azura, who looked identical to Si Yihan. She'd like to see whether Lord Azura would attack if she personally led the Fearless Alliance to eradicate a subordinate faction under Azura. 7-Star, Big Dipper, what do you think? Yi Wanwan looked at the two people nearby. Sis Feng, it goes without saying. We're fighting them for sure. We're gonna beat those bastards till they're dead. How dare they harm a branch of the Fearless Alliance? Big Dipper looked incensed as though he wanted the whole world to be encased in chaos. His answer was just as Yi Wanwan expected. No wonder a fool like Big Dipper was assigned to an important position by Bro Flattop. It was probably because they were birds of a feather. Chapter 1440 Yuan Wan looked at 7 Star. What do you think, 7 Star? Don't fight them. 7 Star calmly said, the faction subordinate to Azura isn't weak and has a decent relationship with Azura. I've even heard they have some connections to Lord Azura himself. If we do retaliate, Azura will definitely act as well, and we'll be in a very dangerous situation. Giving up a branch is no big deal. Yuan Wan nodded lightly after 7 Star finished speaking. She swept her eyes over everyone and announced, gather the members immediately. I'll personally lead the group to eliminate that faction under Azura. Silence descended on the conference room. Aside from Big Dipper, everyone else stared at Yuan Wan in astonishment, and 7 Star had a deep frown on his face. Even the higher-ups who clamored to seek revenge reacted the same way. Who didn't know how to boast impressively? However, it was an entirely different matter if they seriously had to act. President, utter nonsense. What should we do if Azura attacks? A higher-up looked at Yuan Wan, all worked up. That's right. In consideration of the Fearless Alliance's strength and how the Northern District is fairly close to us, it's truly disadvantageous for us to attack on a large scale. You must reconsider carefully, President. Don't indulge in momentary gratification. Various higher-ups all inputted their opinions and thought Yuan Wan knew jack shit and was playing with the Fearless Alliance's future. What? Yuan Wan snorted. I heard how intense your argument was earlier and a lot of people cried for revenge and a fight. Yet, you're all opposing me now. It's easy for you to just open your mouth and ask for revenge, right? But you're all cowards like old dogs when it comes to actually doing anything. Many of the higher-ups' expressions shifted. This woman was insulting them as old dogs in this roundabout way. No, this wasn't roundabout. She was pointing at them and insulting them. President, it's inadvisable to involve a large number of people when going to the Northern District. Otherwise, it's the same as revealing ourselves to the whole state, and that subordinate faction will also make preparations in advance. If they team up with Azura and set up an ambush, we'd basically be willingly walking into a trap, a higher-up said with a snort. Did this damn woman really think she was the president of the Fearless Alliance? If they didn't sign an agreement before and didn't find evidence proving she was pretending to be the president, she wouldn't be able to skip and jump about the conference room, spouting nonsense like this. Yuan Wan glanced at the elderly man who spoke and snorted. Your words are reasonable, of course. It isn't suitable to engage in great fanfare for this fight. I only need 100 people. 100 people. When everyone heard Yuan Wan's arrogant words, Big Dipper and 7 Star were startled, let alone the other higher-ups in the room. She wanted to seek revenge on a subordinate faction under Azura with a mere 100 people. The destroyed Fearless Alliance branch in the Northern District had more than 1,000 people. Even a branch with 1,000 people was destroyed, yet she wanted to take only 100 people to seek revenge? Ha ha ha, great. The president is truly the president. We naturally can't compare to you. Since you've spoken, then please lead 100 people to seek revenge, President, an elder said with a string of laughter. He'd like to see what kind of price this woman was going to pay for her ignorance and arrogance. If she truly was the president of the Fearless Alliance, perhaps she could really eradicate a subordinate faction under Azura with a mere 100 people. But was she? Chapter 1441 Yuan Wan turned to 7 Star and Big Dipper and said, go and pick out the 98 most elite members of Fearless Alliance. Big Dipper was taken back and asked, bewildered, Sis Feng, shouldn't I pick out 100 people? Why are we only picking 98? Yuan Wan glanced at Big Dipper. Aren't you a person? Before Big Dipper could respond, 7 Star said, you and I count as 2 people. Big Dipper thought about it and nodded. I see, meeting adjourned. Yuan Wan stood up from the chief's seat and strolled out of the conference room without a backward glance. Big Dipper and 7 Star followed after Yi Wanwan. Sis Feng, are we really going to attack Azura's subordinate faction power? 7 Star asked with a slight frown as he caught up to Yi Wanwan with large strides. This decision was a bit too brazen in 7 Star's point of view. She wanted to seek revenge successfully with a mere 100 people. It wasn't realistic at all. There was an extremely high possibility that this decision would lead to the utter demise of the 100 members she led there. I have my own plans, Yi Wanwan replied. 7 Star, are you becoming timider? Big Dipper glanced at 7 Star. When has the Fearless Alliance ever been scared? This has nothing to do with being scared, 7 Star said. Before Big Dipper could say anything, Yi Wanwan interrupted them, go and choose the people first. Since Yi Wanwan made her decision already, 7 Star wasn't going to say anything more. He went with Big Dipper to choose the elite members. In the evening, the 98 people were all chosen. Each person was an elite member of the Fearless Alliance. After they learned they were about to go to the Northern District and seek revenge on Azura's subordinate faction, they were all somewhat unwilling. They felt like they were marching to their deaths. However, this was the president's orders, so they had no choice but to obey. Evening. Fearless Alliance's headquarters, inside Yi Wanwan's office, Virus yawned and propped its head on Yi Wanwan's legs, looking at Yi Wanwan with its breathtaking eyes. Yi Wanwan ascertained that no one else was around before taking out her phone and checking her QQ messages. Gong Su, Brother Yi, where did you travel to? Space? Why aren't you back yet? Luo Chen, are you online, Brother Yi? Han Xianyu, Yi Bai, where did you go lately? I haven't gotten any news from you at all and can't reach you by phone. Please call me back if you see this message. After reading through the messages, she flicked her finger and erased every message. The consequences were inconceivable if someone else saw these messages. Yi Wanwan rarely messaged even her mother, Liang Wanjun. She only occasionally reported her safety and asked about her mother's well-being along with Yi Mufan's and her father's recent situation. After deleting the messages, Yi Wanwan called Nameless Nye. Hello, Nameless Nye's voice resounded from the phone. Meet up with me. I need you for something. Yi Wanwan got straight to the topic. Sister Famous Yi. Meeting up isn't a problem, but you need to pay the hiring fee for the Star Destroyer mercenary team first, Nameless Nye said urgently. I sent you the address already. We can settle the bill then. Yi Wanwan hung up after saying that. Then she stood up and gave Virus and Great White a round of scratching and petting before leaving the Fearless Alliance. At tea house in Yun City, Yi Wanwan waited for more than an hour before Nameless Nye entered with the dust of a long journey. Here, Yi Wanwan called at him. Nameless Nye looked around for a moment and saw Yi Wanwan. He strode toward her. Chapter 1442, Sister Famous Yi, why did you call me here so urgently? Also, Curly from the Star Destroyer mercenary team said you ran away without paying the hiring fee. It's his hard-earned money. Sister Famous Yi, you can't duck out of paying, Yi Wanwan rolled her eyes. Do I look like someone who doesn't pay? Something happened last time, so I didn't have time to pay. That's true. I trust Boss Famous' financial abilities. Nameless Nye took a sip of his tea and leaned close to Yi Wanwan. Boss Famous, say, do you want to pay by card or cash? A check also works, why are you in such a hurry? I have another business deal for you, do you want it? Yi Wanwan smiled faintly. Business deal? Nameless Nye was startled. What business deal? A mercenary business deal, of course. Why else would I call you? Yi Wanwan said. I thought you came to repay your debt, Boss Famous, you just can't help but mention money every 3 sentences. I have a need for manpower right now. If you accept this order, I'll pay for everything then and won't leave out a single cent. If you perform well, I might even pay more. How about it? Yi Wanwan asked with a smile. Boss Famous. What are you planning to do with the hired mercenaries? Nameless Nya inquired. A clan offended me, so I'm planning to teach them a lesson, Yuanwan replied. Sure. Nameless Nya nodded frantically and looked at Yuanwan. Boss Famous, you found the right person by seeking me out for this type of thing. We're professionals. However, who do you plan to hire, Boss Famous? I have many mercenary teams under me. Nameless Nya took out a pen and a piece of paper and handed it to Yuanwan. Boss Famous, were you satisfied with the Star Destroyer mercenary team services last time? If you're satisfied, please give 4 stars. If you're very satisfied, please give 5 stars. If you're unsatisfied, please give 1 star. We're all corporation style and need to have performance reports and evaluations. Yuanwan, the longer I live, the more I see. Vicious mercenaries actually need their customers to give them star ratings. Yuanwan had no choice but to helplessly draw 5 stars on the paper and give the pen and paper back to Nameless Nya. Can we talk official business now? Yuanwan sighed. Sure, Nameless Nya nodded. What kind of mercenary team are you looking for this time, Boss Famous? Both T1 and T2 level are good. T1 is a bit more expensive while T2 is more economical and cost-effective. How about you use the Star Destroyer mercenary team again this time since you're so familiar with them now? However, Yuanwan shook her head after listening to Nameless Nya's non-stop prattling. She stared at Nameless Nya and smiled. This time, I want to hire you. Nameless Nya was taken back. Hire me? After he regained his senses, he shook his head frantically. Boss Famous, what are you saying? I'm a boss myself. The boss doesn't get hired. Yuanwan was rendered speechless. He was nothing like how he was when he didn't have money to eat back in China. He had grown a tough pair of wings after coming back to the independent state. He wouldn't even accept being employed anymore. You can hire Spray of Flowers, Taoist Devotee, Brick-Moving Foreigner, and Dead Man. How about that? They're Super T1 level mercenaries. They might be a bit expensive, but don't worry. They're expensive for a good reason. Every cent you spend will be worth it. Nameless Nya advertised. Chapter 1443 Yuanwan rested her chin on her hand and thought about it. Yuanwan said, then. I'll hire Spray of Flowers. Oh. Boss Famous, it's like this. Spray of Flowers went out on a mission and isn't free in these next few days, Nameless Nya answered honestly. Yuanwan, then I'll hire Dead Man, Yuanwan said. Dead Man and Spray of Flowers went out on a mission together. Nameless Nya smiled faintly. Yuanwan's lips twitched as she looked at Nameless Nya's infuriating face. Was he playing with her? He was advertising them so enthusiastically moments ago and now he went back on his words and said they went on a mission. But Brick-Moving Foreigner and Taoist Devotee are both available. You can't underestimate those 2 people, Boss Famous. They're my most beloved employees. If we weren't so close, I definitely wouldn't recommend them to you, Nameless Nya said. True, those 2 people were fine too. Yuanwan nodded and agreed in the end, hiring both Taoist Devotee and Brick-Moving Foreigner. Yuanwan naturally trusted their strength. Unfortunately, Spray of Flowers and Dead Man were on a mission already, or else she would have hired all 4 of them. I'll take both Taoist Devotee and Brick-Moving Foreigner, Yuanwan said. Hee, Boss Famous, how about you pay a down payment first, Nameless Nya said with a laugh while staring at Yuanwan. I'll pay it all after the mission finishes. What, are you afraid I'll run away? Yuanwan said instead. Nameless Nya had no choice but to relent in the end. He couldn't do anything if Yuanwan didn't want to pay right now. Yuanwan stood up and left the tea house after her discussion with Nameless Nya. At that moment, Big Dipper and 7 Star had already led the chosen elite members and departed for the northern district ahead of Yuanwan. As people said, the cover of the night was perfect for killing. They took advantage of the darkness and led 100 people toward the northern district to attack the subordinate Azura faction while they were unprepared. A little while later, brick-moving foreigner and Taoist devotee met up with Yi Wanwan near the tea house. "Boss famous, have you eaten shit yet?" Brick-moving foreigner walked toward Yi Wanwan with a bright grin that revealed his pearly teeth. Yi Wanwan's lips twitched. "No. Have you eaten yet?" "I've eaten shit." Brick-moving foreigner nodded cheerfully. Yi Wanwan, she really didn't want to continue this disgusting topic. Could it be that this idiot still didn't know the meaning of shit? Wasn't this too illogical? However, on the other hand, Yi Wanwan could understand it. For a mercenary at brick-moving foreigner's level, even if he interacted with other people and asked if they ate shit yet, other people probably didn't dare to respond or explain the true meaning of eating shit. "Boss famous, I didn't expect you to also come to the independent state. I'll definitely need to treat Boss famous to a good meal of shit after this mission ends." "Eat it yourself." "Thanks, you're too polite." "I'll treat you to a meal later," Yi Wanwan squeezed out reluctantly. Yi Wanwan didn't dare to tell brick-moving foreigner the true meaning of eating shit though. If he learned he'd been deceived by Taoist devotee and spray of flowers to this extent, it was very possible that he'd turn on them immediately and beat them to death. He definitely would. "Boss famous, Captain said it's a patrician family in the northern district?" Taoist devotee asked. Yi Wanwan nodded and told them the whole story. "Boss famous, you're actually pretending to be the leader of the Fearless Alliance." Brick-moving foreigner looked at Yi Wanwan with astonishment. Chapter 1444, So What? "Boss famous has even led us to pretend to be the Rose of Death," Taoist devotee interjected. Carefully thinking about it, that was true. They didn't expect Boss famous to have this kind of special ability and have the guts to masquerade as anyone. After some casual conversation, Yi Wanwan drove them toward the northern district. It wasn't until nightfall that they reached the northern district of the independent state. Different from Yun City, the northern district was considered the countryside, and it wasn't an overstatement to say this place was nearly devoid of humans. Big Dipper and 7 Star were waiting for Yi Wanwan already. When they saw Yi Wanwan getting out of the car, they walked toward her. Taoist devotee chuckled awkwardly and said, "Boss. President Bai, it's not good to come here on a quest for revenge with just this handful of people, right?" Yi Wanwan glanced at Taoist devotee. "If I brought enough people, why would I need you here?" Taoist devotee was startled. "That's true. Sis Feng, who are these two?" 7 Star asked with a furrow of his brows while examining Taoist devotee and brick-moving foreigner. "Friends," Yi Wanwan replied. The mercenaries under nameless Nye rarely appeared in the independent state unless they were on a mission. Plus, they were usually very secretive, so most people didn't know their identities. The first rule of a mercenary was to conceal their own identity well. If they couldn't even conceal their identity, how were they qualified to be a mercenary and accept any missions? Taoist devotee and brick-moving foreigner were particularly unknown. "What's the situation?" Yi Wanwan asked 7 Star and Big Dipper. "Sis Feng, it doesn't look good." Big Dipper looked very solemn as he walked toward Yi Wanwan and explained the current situation to her. The subordinate faction under Azura is the Yuan family. The Yuan family's headquarters is a dozen or so kilometers from our current location. But they seem to have detected us ahead of time and nearly 20 brothers are seriously injured. Several members of the Fearless Alliance collapsed onto the ground just as Big Dipper finished speaking, and waves of laments and moaning left their mouths, as though they were suffering from intense pain. As Yi Wanwan looked at the fallen people, she looked calm on the surface, but she was incredibly shaken on the inside. Before Yi Wanwan could say anything, blood started pouring out of these people's eyes, nose, ears, and mouths. She could even see long, snow-white worms wiggling. "Goo poison 1." Big Dipper shouted, his expression changing drastically. "Goo poison?" Yi Wanwan's lips twitched slightly. "Goo poison? Why don't you say you're ambushed by Iron Man, Spider-Man, or Batman? It's goo poison indeed." Taoist devotee and brick-moving foreigner turned to each other in astonishment. The Yuan family also knew about gu poison. On their team, the only one with a mastery in gu poison was Dead Man, but Dead Man wasn't there right now. If it's truly gu poison, it's a bit tricky, Taoist devotee said. Yuan was startled when she saw Taoist devotee's reaction. Could it be that gu poison really existed in this world? Yuan originally wanted to help the Fearless Alliance members up but was pulled back by Taoist devotee. He shook his head at her. Soon, the sound of howling disappeared and the Fearless Alliance members turned ghastly pale and reached the end of their lives. This scene caused Yuan's mind to turn into an utter mess. She'd never seen such an incredulous scene in her whole life. Yuan was about to speak when she felt a weird itching on her neck, as though ants were crawling over her skin. Chapter 1445. Yuan reflexively wanted to scratch her neck, but Taoist devotee's expression shifted and he shouted, "Don't move." As fast as lightning, Taoist devotee flicked his finger and flung away the tiny scorpion-like insect that was tightly latching onto Yuan's neck. "This is a gu insect," brick-moving foreigner looked astonished. There were people who were well versed in the gu poison practice in the independent state, but practitioners who had such mastery. Gu insect, Yuan was shocked and incredulous. Could it be that gu really existed in this world? Yuan sent Taoist devotee a look with her eyes and led Taoist devotee into her car. "What is it, boss famous?" Taoist devotee looked perplexed. "What's the deal with gu poison? Don't tell me it really exists." Yuan was brimming with curiosity. Taoist devotee nodded confidently. "Boss famous, it exists of course, but you might not know about it." The color drained out of Yuan's face with a swish. Something so mystical really existed. She was a young person living in the 21st century who believed in the philosophy of materialism. Boss famous should know about the Miao tribe, right? Taoist devotee asked. Yuan nodded. Who doesn't know about them? But didn't the Miao tribe open up to the public? We can even travel there and sightsee now. There isn't anything about the gu technique there. Boss famous, you only know part of it. You don't know the rest. Taoist devotee looked at Yuan and solemnly said, the Miao tribe is divided into red Miao, white Miao, cyan Miao, flower Miao, and blue Miao branches. Those branches are open to the public nowadays. There's still one branch of the Miao tribe that's the most mysterious branch. They're the gu Miao, the gu Miao. Yuan was taken back. That's right. Taoist devotee nodded and said, the gu Miao is the most mysterious and they're experts in the gu technique. The only ones who know the gu technique in the entire Miao tribe are the members of the gu Miao branch. Is there a scientific basis for this? Yuan didn't believe in the supernatural so easily. It's hard to say. The gu Miao branch isn't open to the public and lives completely secluded from the world. You couldn't research them even if you wanted to, Taoist devotee explained. You're joking, right? How about nurturing imps? Are they real too? Yuan had a deep frown. Now that's an exaggeration. Those kinds of gu are legends and unrealistic. Gu really exists, but nurturing imps are all rubbish. Taoist devotee shook his head. Yuan heard about the gu Miao while she was in China. People said the gu Miao lived a life that was completely secluded from the world, not participating in the outside world at all, and they were masters of the gu technique. Yuan never took them seriously when she read about this, but she didn't expect something like gu to really exist in this world. She was stunned especially since she witnessed it for herself today. Based on what Taoist devotee said, gu wasn't a supernatural far-fetched tale, it truly existed. However, the world was too large and the gu Miao branch was secluded from the world, so many people never came into contact with it. Plus, it sounded extremely mystical, so who would believe it? However, this kind of thing really existed. For example, the medical practices of Miao medicine and Zong medicine were extremely unique and most people couldn't understand it, but they were oddly effective. Is there a way to ward off goo insects? Yi Wanwan asked. Taoist devotee thought about it before promptly shaking his head. He only had surface knowledge about the goo poison and didn't have a thorough understanding of it. It was Dead Man who was more familiar with this subject. Soon, Yi Wanwan exited the car and turned to the members of the Fearless Alliance, ordering, "There are goo insects here. Let's retreat for now." Chapter 1446. Everyone relaxed when they heard Yi Wanwan's words. Goo had always been mysterious to people, and anyone would fear the unknown. Yi Wanwan soon led everyone to retreat dozen or so kilometers back, the location of the branch that was destroyed by the Yuan family. The branch here was the Wu family, a family that had pledged allegiance to the Fearless Alliance for 7 or 8 years already and had decent power in the northern district. However, they had a conflict of interest with the Yuan family, and the Yuan family relied on the fact that they had Azura's backing, thus destroying the Wu family. The place ahead of them was a ruined courtyard. The patriarch of the Wu family was about 50 or so years old. The current state of the estate was no match for its previous splendor. Hundreds of members of the Wu family were either dead or injured, and Patriarch Wu's eldest son died in battle. Currently, Patriarch Wu was sitting in the main hall, his hair grizzled and his eyes brimming with sorrow. "Patriarch, let's go. Otherwise, when the Yuan family launches the second round of attacks," a young man standing next to Patriarch Wu persuaded. "I've lived here for decades. I won't abandon it," Patriarch Wu said. The young man sighed softly. He was originally hoping for the Fearless Alliance to stick up for the Wu family, but it looked impossible now. The Fearless Alliance's headquarters was rather far from here, and the Yuan family had Azura's backing, so why would the Fearless Alliance stick up for the mere Wu family? "Patriarch. Could it be that you're still hoping for the Fearless Alliance to come?" The young man sighed again. Before Patriarch Wu could reply, mocking shouts and curses were heard outside the door. The young man's face shifted drastically, and he hastily looked outside. "Patriarch, an elder from the Yuan family is here with people." The young man looked panicked. The Wu family was nearly exhausted of all fighting power and had more than 200 people gravely injured who were being treated right now. This time, Patriarch Wu snorted and drew a long saber before striding outside. Outside, Elder Yuan was standing at the head of a group of elites from the Yuan family. When he saw Patriarch Wu coming out of the room by himself, he broke into loud guffaws. "Old thing, you actually didn't run. What a backbone you have, you're really facing death head-on." Patriarch Wu's expression chilled. "Let's fight if we must. Why must we waste our words here? Ha ha ha, old thing, you can't possibly still be wishfully dreaming of the Fearless Alliance to come and save you, right? It's time for you to wake up." Elder Yuan snorted and sent his subordinates a look. "Kill. Don't spare a single person." Dozens of elites from the Yuan family immediately charged toward Patriarch Wu. Patriarch Wu merely raised his sword and went on the offensive instead of retreating. There wasn't a trace of fear in his eyes. Every place the long saber reached, a fresh life from the Yuan family was sliced away. However, since the beginning of time, 2 fists couldn't defeat 4 hands, especially since Patriarch Wu was old in years already. Moments later, Patriarch Wu was a bit exhausted already and had obtained a few wounds on his body. Bang! Elder Yuan sent Patriarch Wu crashing to the ground with a kick. "Ha ha ha, old thing, give up already. There's no way the Fearless Alliance would care about ants like you." Elder Yuan was vibrating with arrogance and darkly proclaimed, "Even if the Fearless Alliance came here, they'd merely die in our hands." Just as Elder Yuan finished speaking, a bone-chilling chuckle was heard from behind him. "Your Yuan family is rather gutsy. We'd die in your hands, huh?" Dozens of Fearless Alliance members rushed into the courtyard. Chapter 1447. 1447. Elder Yuan was startled when he saw the leading 7-star and Big Dipper while disbelief surfaced in Patriarch Wu's eyes. "Lord 7. Lord Big." Patriarch Wu was astonished. The Fearless Alliance really came. He knew the Fearless Alliance absolutely wouldn't abandon the Wu family. Big Dipper. 7-star. Elder Yuan stared at Big Dipper and 7-star with his brows knitted close together. These two people weren't easy to handle. Elder Yuan never expected the Fearless Alliance to really come to the Northern District and stick up for the Wu family. 7-star and Big Dipper didn't speak and merely receded to the side. A woman in tight-fitting black clothes stood behind them. The woman was stunningly beautiful and wore a faint, nonchalant smile on her lips. Elder Yuan was further mystified when he saw the woman in black. Judging from 7-star and Big Dipper's expressions, could it be that this woman had a higher position than them in the Fearless Alliance? Patriarch Wu was also puzzled. The fact that 7-star and Big Dipper would come to the Wu estate and back up the Wu family was incredulous already, but did this woman have a higher position than Big Dipper and 7-star in the Fearless Alliance? How could that be possible? May I ask what your identity and level are in the Fearless Alliance, esteemed miss? Patriarch Wu asked Yuan with caution on his face. Big Dipper pursed his lips and turned to Patriarch Wu. She's special level. Special level? Patriarch Wu and the people from the Yuan family were all taken back. Special level in the Fearless Alliance. Special level was mightier than the heavens. The only one who could be considered as special level in the entire Fearless Alliance was the president of the Fearless Alliance, Bro Flattop. Patriarch Wu and the young man next to him both shuddered and stared at Yuan with disbelief. President. Fearless. The youth next to Patriarch Wu was overwhelmed with shock. How could this be? You're President by. Patriarch Wu couldn't be any more shocked. It's improper to shout like this in front of the president. Big Dipper rebuked. When Patriarch Wu heard Big Dipper personally reveal the woman in black before him was Bro Flattop, he was stunned in place. Elder Yuan and the elites from the Yuan family were also incredulous. How could this be possible? Bro Flattop, the president of the Fearless Alliance, appeared in person for the mere Wu family. President. The Yuan family is bullying our Wu family because we don't have anyone. Patriarch Wu accused as he knelt in front of Yuan and pointed at Elder Yuan and his group. Yuan's eyes swept over the Yuan family, and she coldly said, "A blood debt will be paid by blood." As Yuan's last word dropped, 7-star and Big Dipper lunged toward Elder Yuan while the remaining elite members of the Fearless Alliance all charged toward the people from the Yuan family. Although Elder Yuan was strong, he was no match for 7-star and Big Dipper on their own, let alone a team-up between Big Dipper and 7-star. A few breaths later, the estate erupted into chaos, the endless sounds of fighting and shouting traveling to any listener's ears. Patriarch Wu also picked up his long saber again and joined the fight. Attack already! Yuan turned to Taoist devotee and brick-moving foreigner, who were standing next to her like an emperor's father. She was dumbfounded. What were these two idiots doing? Chapter 1448, We can't. We have to protect you and can't stray a single step from your side. That's our responsibility. Taoist devotee hastily said. Right. He's right. Brick-moving foreigner nodded vehemently. Yuan, just admit you're lazy. Do you have to use such an eccentric excuse? Did I hire two masters instead? However, this fight began quickly and ended quickly. Brick-moving foreigner and Taoist devotee didn't need to join the fight. Elder Yuan was beaten to death by Big Dipper and 7-star. The remaining members of the Yuan family also suffered serious mortalities and injuries. A handful of them were kneeling on the ground with their hands clutching their heads, not daring to resist at all. They were facing elite experts of the Fearless Alliance. Lock these little bastards up. Big Dipper directed as he pointed at the young martial artist next to Patriarch Wu. Okay. The youth became energized immediately and gave the surrendered martial artists from the Yuan family a round of fierce kicking before locking them up in the Wu family's dungeon. Thank you, President. Patriarch Wu knelt on the ground and shouted toward Yuanwan. Yuanwan smiled aloofly and said, "Since the Wu family is the subordinate power of the Fearless Alliance, how could we allow other people to bully you?" Patriarch Wu looked extremely emotional, overwhelmed by the honor of the towering president of the Fearless Alliance, Bro Flattop, speaking to him so amiably. More than that, she even stuck up for the Wu family personally. "Patriarch Wu, the only way to the Yuan residence has been poisoned by goo. Are there any other paths nearby?" Yuanwan asked Patriarch Wu. Patriarch Wu nodded. "Don't worry, President. We have a waterway that can directly reach the Yuan residence, and I have several boats. However, since the Yuan family poisoned the land route, they must have installed some kind of defense there too. Don't worry about it. Just lead us there," Yuanwan said. "Yes." Patriarch Wu nodded frantically and stood up. Taking advantage of the night, Yuanwan and her company separated into groups and each group boarded a boat and arrived near the Yuan residence. However, the Yuan residence was currently under tight security. Yuanwan furrowed her brows. As people said, destroy the leader and the gang will collapse. However, it wasn't realistic for so many of them to sneak into the Yuan residence without notice. Yuanwan turned to brick-moving foreigner and Taoist devotee. These two idiots were finally useful. "The three of us will sneak inside," Yuanwan told the two of them. "President, us two should keep watch instead," Taoist devotee said. However, Yuanwan grabbed Taoist devotee by his ear as soon as he finished speaking. "Keep watch your ass. Did I spend so much money to hire you to have you keep watch?" Taoist devotee and brick-moving foreigner had no choice but to follow Yuanwan and sneak inside the Yuan residence. With their martial arts skills, they were able to stay completely under the radar and didn't alert any of the tight security around them. Yuanwan inwardly snorted. With help from brick-moving foreigner and Taoist devotee, it shouldn't be any problem to capture the patriarch of the Yuan family. Their strength was Super S level, and not many people in the independent state were a match for them. The interior of the Yuan residence was encased in darkness, and only the study was lit. The trio silently walked to the door of the study and shifted their ears to the door. There were people speaking. Not only that, but this voice sounded familiar to Yuanwan. Yuanwan didn't think too much about it though. She heard someone call Patriarch Yuan inside the study, and Patriarch Yuan replied. In other words, Patriarch Yuan was inside this study. Yuanwan straightened her body and kicked the door to the study open. "Freaking dead man, what kind of damn goo did you use? You even said nothing would go wrong, but they're on our doorsteps now." A flowery-dressed man inside the room reprimanded an iceberg-like man who carried a coffin on his back. Iceberg man merely glanced at the other man and didn't say anything. At this time, Yuanwan, Taoist devotee, and little sweetie had charged inside the room and the two parties entered fighting stances. When the two parties saw each other a second later, they were taken back. Yuanwan was also stupefied. "Shit! Spray of flowers and dead man aka iceberg man. Why are these two at the Yuan residence?" Chapter 1449. Inside the Yuan study, the five people stared at each other, bewildered. It was as though time had stopped, the study under a blanket of silence. Yuanwan first glanced at the ostentatious spray of flowers, then examined iceberg man behind him. She was dumbfounded, her lips twitching slightly. No wonder nameless Nya said spray of flowers and dead man weren't available because they went out on a mission when she wanted to hire them. They did go on a mission indeed. They accepted the Yuan family's mission and feasted on the wage from both sides. Yuanwan finally understood where the goo poison on the necessary road to the Yuan residence came from. Taoist devotee previously said that only Dead Man was a master of the goo technique out of their group. Who would have known that the goo insects on this road were planted by Dead Man? Moreover, because of the goo technique, she lost many brothers from the Fearless Alliance. An elderly man around 40 or 50 years old and luxuriously dressed stood next to spray of flowers and iceberg man. He had to be the patriarch of the Yuan family. Patriarch Yuan wore a deep frown as he looked at Yuan and her group. He had received news that there was a high possibility the Fearless Alliance would come and exact revenge, so he hired 2 top mercenary experts, and one of the mercenaries planted goo insects on the mandatory road to the Yuan residence. How did these people pass that road and arrive at the Yuan residence? Experts, hurry and protect me. Patriarch Yuan looked at Spray of Flowers and Iceberg Man instantly and hastily shouted, "Kill them all." However, Spray of Flowers and Iceberg Man didn't reply. They couldn't figure out why Little Sweetie and Taoist Devotee were here. Well. Taoist Devotee pointed at Spray of Flowers and Iceberg Man and reproached coldly, "The 2 of you actually accepted private work behind Little Sweetie and my back." Spray of Flowers, Iceberg Man. Humph. Spray of Flowers, who recovered his wits, snorted and glanced at Taoist Devotee and brick-moving foreigner. "How dare you admonish us? Didn't you do also accepted private work behind my husband and my back?" Spray of Flowers wrapped his arm around Iceberg Man's shoulder. "Am I right, husband?" However, Iceberg Man coolly glanced at Spray of Flowers, seemingly unwanting to speak. "Husband said that it's you 2 shameless people who accepted private work yourself, so you have no right to say anything to us." "Pa!" Spray of Flowers shouted at Taoist Devotee and Little Sweetie. Yuan stared at Spray of Flowers, rendered speechless. Dead man hasn't even opened his mouth once this whole time. Are you playing mind reading? Our mission was accepted by Captain. Taoist Devotee straightened his back. Right. He's right. Brick-moving foreigner nodded vehemently. "TCH, you damn quack, are trying to scare me." Spray of Flowers was full of disdain. "Our mission was also approved by Captain." This scene turned extremely embarrassing. Yuan's lips turned up with an awkward but courteous smile as she thought, "Fuck you, nameless Nye. Forget it. Since it's like that, let's go," Taoist Devotee said to Brick-moving foreigner. Brick-moving foreigner nodded frantically. It was too hot outside, and the Yuan residence didn't even have the AC turned on. He wanted to go home and eat some watermelon while enjoying the AC. Chapter 1450. 1450. Seeing that Taoist Devotee and Brick-moving foreigner were about to leave, Yuan instantly blocked their paths. She spent money to hire them. But they wanted to run away without doing anything. "Where are you going?" Yuan asked while staring at them. "Going home to eat shit," Brick-moving foreigner answered. "Fine, you win. Don't forget what you came here for. You 2 were hired by me with hard money from that bastard, nameless Nye. Yet you want to run away without doing any work. See if I'll give you a bad 1-star rating." Yuan threatened. Taoist Devotee and Brick-moving foreigner were startled, their expressions shifting instantly. Getting a bad rating wasn't a joke. Captain said that anyone who got a bad rating from their customers would lose a layer of skin. Taoist Devotee looked at Yuan and clapped his chest as he said, "Boss famous, don't worry. Since we got gifts from you, since we got money from you, you should clear your troubles for you. We're mercenaries with rigid principles. We're professional employees." Right. He's right, we're professionals. Brick-moving foreigner clapped his hands in agreement and turned to Spray of Flowers and Iceberg Man with a ferocious expression. He shouted loudly, "I'm the one who opened this mountain and planted this forest. Give me your head if you want to pass through this road." Iceberg Man. Huh? What? Even Yuan was dumbfounded. What's wrong with Brick-moving foreigner? Did he have a brain spasm? "We came to be abductors, not bandits. Heavens, I need a bodhisattva to come and save me." Taoist Devotee looked a bit embarrassed and quietly explained to Yuan, "Back in China. Brick-moving foreigner watched too much period dramas, and thinks it's more imposing to speak like this. He's talented at using his imposing aura to crush his opponents. Yi Wanwan's lips twitched slightly. Why were these people more unreliable than Curly and his group from the Star Destroyer mercenary team? If she knew this, she would have just hired Curly's team instead. Humph. Before Yi Wanwan could speak, Patriarch Yuan snorted and stared at Yi Wanwan. Little miss, it appears you hired 2 mercenaries to target me. Which Dao are you from? Yi Wanwan glanced at Patriarch Yuan. Taekwondo, Jeet Kune Do, Karate, and the Dao of the Starry Sky. Patriarch Yuan grew enraged. Little bastard, you're playing me. His figure flashed, and his palm shot toward Yi Wanwan. Scram! Taoist devotee retaliated with a finger and forced Patriarch Yuan to retreat with the mere force of his finger. Did you ask me before you tried to attack my employer? Taoist devotee snorted. Hey, you damn quack. Your employer is an employer, but my employer isn't an employer. Spray of flowers protected Patriarch Yuan behind him and promptly cursed at Taoist devotee while pointing at him. Blah. You damn lady boy. As they say, there's no such thing as fathers and sons on the battlefield. Attack. Taoist devotee snorted. There aren't fathers and sons on the battlefield? Spray of flowers was dumbstruck. What do you mean? Lady boy, he's saying he's your father. Brick moving foreigner answered. Spray of flowers was angered and looked at Iceberg Man, husband. The damn quack said he's our father. Poison him to death with goo. However, Iceberg Man merely yawned and naturally sat down on the ground. A few breaths later, he went from sitting to lying, looking as if he became one with the floor without seeming out of place. Chapter 1451, Move Aside. We were hired by Boss Famous and will capture the old fart, Patriarch Yuan, tonight. Taoist devotee spoke with a forceful tone. Only then did Yi Wanwan nod with consolation in her heart. They were finally acting properly. Blah, you damn quack. Since it's like that, we'll each serve our own masters and show off our true strength. Spray of flowers declared. Then Spray of flowers attacked Taoist devotee's chest with his palm. You damn lady boy, you dared to touch my chest. Taoist devotee punched Spray of flowers' face as he said that. Spray of flowers screeched. I was just fooling around with you, but you seriously attacked me? You messed up the makeup I spent hours on. Your mother, is going to fight to the death with you. In an instant, Taoist devotee and Spray of flowers tumbled together and all the chairs, desks, and stools inside the study were crushed and sent flying by them. Upon seeing Spray of flowers and Taoist devotee dueling it out, Brick moving foreigner pointed at Iceberg Man, who was lying on the floor, and shouted, Come. Let's fight. Come here, you. Iceberg Man merely adjusted his sleeping position and didn't seem interested in getting up. Seeing that, Brick moving foreigner continued to egg on, Are you afraid of me? Why don't you pretend to be dead? Why don't you get up if you're so capable? Iceberg Man slowly stood up from the floor. Before Brick moving foreigner could do anything though, Iceberg Man suddenly pushed open the lid of his coffin and stepped into the coffin under everyone's eyes. A second later, a bang was heard, and the coffin lid closed heavily. Yi Wanwan, Brick moving foreigner, Boss Famous, this isn't my fault. You can't give me a bad rating for this. Brick moving foreigner promptly turned around and looked at Yi Wanwan with a bright ingratiating grin. Yi Wanwan wanted to say something but couldn't figure out anything to say. On the other hand, Spray of flowers didn't seem to be a match for Taoist devotee and was suffering a little. Spray of flowers backed down and opened Iceberg Man's coffin. He looked at the placid Iceberg Man inside the coffin and said angrily, Husband, help me fight him. He's serious. Iceberg Man yawned and disdainfully looked at Spray of flowers before shaking his head. Yi Wanwan felt her head pound as she watched this scene. How long would this continue if they kept fighting like this? Dawn was about to come. Spray of flowers, dead man, I'll double however much money Patriarch Yuan gave you. Come and help me. Yi Wanwan said. The originally furious or sleepy duo turned energized within seconds of hearing that, and their eyes brightened. Ah! Sister Famous Yi, look at what you're saying. It's so vulgar to mention money with our relationship. My husband and I will definitely help you. Right, husband? Spray of flowers asked Iceberg Man, who finally sat up. Iceberg Man nodded eagerly. Patriarch Yuan jolted in fright upon seeing this. Everything would go downhill if these two deserted him. I'll triple however much this woman gives. Patriarch Yuan hastily said. Sister Famous Yi, even though we have a good relationship, we're professional mercenaries with principles. Since we were hired by Boss Yuan, we must serve him single-heartedly. How can we jump ship suddenly? We can't do that. It'd seriously violate the mercenary principles. I'm sorry, your mother, I can't do it. Spray of Flowers said lamentably. Chapter 1452, I'll pay quadruple. Yi Wanwan snorted. Boss Famous, with our relationship and your relationship with Captain, principles are bullshit. We're close like brothers from the same mom. We'll definitely help you. Spray of Flowers looked at Yi Wanwan with a solemn expression. Even Iceberg Man nodded on a rare occasion. I'll pay tenfold. Patriarch Yuan shouted angrily. Tenfold? Spray of Flowers swallowed his spit. Boss Famous, sorry. We're principled mercenaries and can't be tempted by money. Ah, Yi Wanwan nodded. I was planning to pay 100 million. Since he's paying tenfold, that's 1 billion, and it's 2 billion for two people. You should ask him for money first. 1 billion. Taoist devotee turned to Patriarch Yuan in surprise. Boss Yuan, I admire your character a lot, so little sweetie and I plan to jump to your side too. Let's settle the bill first. You definitely can't pay in cash, so let's pay by card. Taoist devotee took out a card machine from somewhere. 4 billion. What kind of insane joke are you telling? Patriarch Yuan's expression shifted. He hadn't seen 4 billion in his whole life, let alone paying 4 billion. How many Yuan families could he buy with 4 billion? This woman did this on purpose. Since she said she'll pay 1 billion, fine. Ask her for money first. Patriarch Yuan wasn't a fool and exposed the key point instantly. Taoist devotee, Spray of Flowers, and their group turned to Yi Wanwan in the next second. Yi Wanwan said, do you think my fearless alliance doesn't have this tiny amount of money? It's just 4 billion. Tomorrow, go to the Fearless Alliance's finance department to retrieve your money. Yi Wanwan smiled secretly. The 4 billion is real, but I didn't specify 4 billion in which currency. If it's just 4 billion in some small country's currency, it'd just be $40,000, which would be $10,000 for each person. Spray of Flowers and Iceberg Man knew Yi Wanwan had become the president of the Fearless Alliance. Spray of Flowers walked to Yi Wanwan and grasped her hand. Ah! Sister, your hand is turning tenderer. It's about to match this sister's hand. Look at how smooth it is, it'll make people jealous. Sister, we shouldn't mention money with our relationship. Even if you give me $10,000, I'll definitely help you, my good sister, let alone 1 billion. He turned to Taoist devotee and brick-moving foreigner and angrily said, what are you standing around for? Hurry and capture this old thing already. Could it be that you're waiting for my good sister to do it herself, you trash? Upon watching Spray of Flowers, who shifted faces faster than the sky shifted the weather, Taoist devotee and brick-moving foreigner looked at each other blankly. They both spat at Spray of Flowers inwardly before acting and captured the dumbfounded patriarch of the Yuan family. Then they threw him on the bed with his arms tied behind his back and rope looped around his neck. You two are violating the Mercenary Guild's rules. I'm going to report you to the Mercenary Guild. Patriarch Yuan shouted, enraged. Blah. You shameless old geezer. Look at how old and ugly you are, yet you still recruit mercenaries like other people. And you want to report us? You need to stay alive before you can report us. Spray of Flowers chortled while staring at the tied-up Patriarch Yuan. Iceberg Man took out something from his coffin and slapped it onto Patriarch Yuan. Instantly, it was like Patriarch Yuan turned mute, and he couldn't speak anymore. Chapter 1453, 1453 Yuan watched how a casual slap from Iceberg Man prohibited Patriarch Yuan from speaking immediately and caused his face to swell red. This is, goo. Yuan asked Iceberg Man. Iceberg Man nodded lightly. Yuan was at a loss of words. In all the years she had lived, this was her first time seeing someone using something as mystical as goo. Boss, Patriarch Yuan is bound. What's our next step? Spray of Flowers asked with an ingratiating smile next to Yuan. Yuan thought for a moment, but before she could speak, rhythmic marching could be heard outside the door. The members of the Yuan family had surrounded the study layer by layer. To the people inside, listen up. We've already informed Azura and Lord Azura. If you don't want to die, immediately bring out our patriarch safely, an elderly man shouted angrily outside the study. Everyone from the Yuan family was alerted due to the large commotion inside the study, but their patriarch was restrained right now, so they didn't dare to rashly charge into the study. Azura? Spray of Flowers was startled briefly before saying with a smile, Lord Azura is a difficult opponent, and they have the advantage in numbers. We should flee now, or else we'll be in deep trouble when Azura's people get here. That's true. Most importantly, Captain doesn't have any animosities with Azura, so it wouldn't be good if we have any direct conflicts. How about we retreat? Taoist devotee also bobbed his head in agreement. Their gaze landed on Yuan. Yuan was this group's money bag, so they had to listen to her. Yuan was about to say something when she heard the sound of rope ripping from the bed. At the same time, Patriarch Yuan, who had struggled up from his binding, leaped up from the bed and kicked open the coffin near Iceberg Man before they realized what was happening. Patriarch Yuan had seen Iceberg Man retrieve his goo insects from the coffin, so he knew this mercenary, who was a goo expert, stored his goo insects inside his coffin. Only then did Spray of Flowers and Taoist devotee regain their wits. They were scared witless when they saw Patriarch Yuan reaching into the coffin. Dead man's goo was all stored inside that coffin. Patriarch Yuan released a tragic laugh and scooped up a handful of unknown goo with both hands before he was about to throw it at Yuan and her group. Spray of Flowers and his teammates became frightened and retreated backward reflexively. What would happen to them if they were hit? However, Patriarch Yuan was smart. His actions were merely a feint, and he waited until they stopped moving before throwing the goo toward Yuan. Yuan was caught off guard and felt her body turn numb, as though thousands of ants were crawling over her. Patriarch Yuan's smile froze suddenly. He didn't expect a number of goo insects to burrow into his body while he picked them up. He felt like they were nibbling everything inside his body. A few breaths later, Patriarch Yuan collapsed onto the floor like a slab of mud and oxygen flowed out of him as he turned into a corpse. Meanwhile, Yuan had a deep frown on her face. Her body felt like an inferno was raging through it, and every inch of skin was unbearably itchy and bright red. At the same time, upon seeing Yuan surrounded by the Yuan family, Big Dipper and 7 Star led the elites from the Fearless Alliance inside urgently and killed their way through to create an opening. Chapter 1454 When Big Dipper and 7 Star charged into the study and saw Yuan looking like that, they were shocked. Sis Feng, what happened to you? Sis Feng, don't scare me, Big Dipper cried out with a panicked expression as he stared at Yuan. Damn. Don't tell me Boss Famous was freaking poisoned by the mutually in love goo. Taoist devotee exclaimed, dumbfounded as he looked at Yuan. Iceberg Man nodded, providing affirmation. It really was mutually in love goo. Spray of Flowers clicked his tongue. Anxiety flickered through Seven Star's face as he hastily asked, "What's mutually in love goo?" Yuan touched the itchy spot on her body and looked at spray of flowers too. Mutually in love. Why did I freaking get shot even though I was lying down? Who would have expected this trouble to arise when everything was wrapping up? However, this goo poison's name sounded rather romantic. It couldn't be some fatal goo, right? Ahem, well, the mutually in love goo, its victims have to do those shy things with the person they like. Otherwise, they'll die. And they'll die very miserably. Blood flowing out of all their crevices, ulcers covering their mouths, they'll have a tragic death. Taoist devotee explained. Doing shy things with the person they like. Big Dipper looked perplexed. What are shy things? When Big Dipper said that, the 5 other people, including Seven Star, all looked at him like he was an idiot. It is the crucial step before your dad and mom produce you. Do you understand now? Brick-moving foreigner explained in a friendly manner. Big Dipper nodded, finally understanding the meaning of shy things. However, why did this explanation sound so unsatisfying? It can be resolved as long as she does that thing. Seven Star looked a bit awkward as he asked with a light cough. In theory, that's the antidote to this goo. Spray of Flowers shrugged with a nod. So this goo isn't considered some fatal goo and is fairly easy to counteract. Don't worry. Yuan wore a complicated expression. Wait, you said it has to be done with someone I like to counteract the goo. Spray of Flowers nodded. That's right. You can take care of it through a bang with someone you like. So this goo poison is utterly useless. Yuan wanted to choke Spray of Flowers to death as she listened to his relaxed tone. Fuck. The one I like. I have no idea where the one I like is. Who should I get to relieve the poison? Isn't this telling me to wait for death? Yuan forcefully endured the increasingly intense itching inside of her and took a deep breath before asking, is there a time limit? Spray of Flowers rubbed his chin and answered, 12 hours. It should be enough for you to find dozens of people. Yuan, 12 hours. Yuan looked at Iceberg Man, annoyed. Can I freaking ask? Knight Errant, why did you create such an odd goo poison? Is there a meaning behind it? Iceberg Man, Spray of Flowers giggled. My husband said this mutually in love goo is a mutation of the love goo. It can be considered a research failure and defective product of the love goo, so what's the love goo? But Yuan wasn't in the mood to ask. She urgently pressed, is there another method besides the solution you mentioned? Since he's the one who made the poison, he must have a way to relieve it, right? Chapter 1455 Spray of Flowers answered earnestly, my husband said this goo is a defective failure, so even he can't resolve it. This is the only method. Yuan, doesn't that mean I'm dead for sure? Unless I can find Si Yihan within 12 hours. Yuan relaxed slightly as she thought about that. Although everything proved Si Yihan masked her memory and he stripped her of her freedom, she subconsciously knew the only person she would choose was still him. If she really had to randomly find someone to remedy her poison, she'd face death without a doubt based on the rule that she had to do it with someone she liked. Isn't that easy? Big Dipper clapped his chest and confidently said, Sis Feng, what kind do you like? I'll find them for you. Do you like seductively beautiful men, mature uncles, wolf dog types, or fresh meat? Yuan, whose consciousness was gradually turning hazy, darkly glanced at Big Dipper for mentioning the topic she wanted to avoid. You don't like any of them? Big Dipper scratched his head and mumbled, Sis Feng, you're about to die, why are you still being picky? Forget it, I'll definitely find you whatever type you like. Upon receiving a lack of response from Yuan, Big Dipper briskly decided to make a judgment himself and immediately ordered people to start looking for men. Hee, since you're fine, we'll leave now. Boss bye, hurry, and find someone to remove the goo. Also, remember to send the money to our captain's account, okay? Spray of Flowers said cheerfully. Yuan was suffering so much that cold sweat drenched her forehead. Send money your ass. Fine. This is called fine. Are there worse troublemakers than them? They actually left just like that. Soon after the four of them left, 7 Stars swiftly ordered his people to seize control of the Yuan residence and dispersed unnecessary personnel. A moment later, a subordinate under Big Dipper's orders brought a dozen or so men into the study. Amongst these dozen or so men, there was the refined and gentle type, the abstinent and cold type, and the energetic and cute type. Every man had a different aura and style, their only commonality was their outstanding looks. The leading man, who resembled a manager, said ingratiatingly, "Lord Big, I've brought all the people you wanted. What do you think? They're the most outstanding men in our store. I guarantee you'll be satisfied." Big Dipper examined the men and nodded while rubbing his chin. He led them to Yuan. "Sis Feng, take a look. We can keep whoever you like." 7 Star glanced at the dozen or so men and furrowed his brows minutely but didn't say anything. When these men discovered they were coming to see President Fearless this time, they were all terrified out of their minds and thought they were going to die for sure. However, when they saw the girl in front of them whose fair face was paired with shimmering eyes, their eyes brightened. They didn't expect the infamous Bro Flat Top to be such a beauty. The effect inside Yuan's body grew more intense, she felt like her bones were being gnawed on by thousands of insects and ants. As she panted rapidly, her eyes severely swept over those men. "Eyesores," the manager shuddered in fright. "Spare us, President. These are truly top-quality goods from our store. We absolutely wouldn't dare to deceive you. Aren't Bro Flat Top standards too high?" She thinks they're still eyesores, considering their looks and quality. What kind of celestial immortal does she want? Chapter 1456. Big Dipper looked miserable. "Sis Feng, I think they're quite decent already. How about you put up with them for your life?" Yuan was suffering terribly and her whole body was enveloped in a turmoil. When she heard that, she brusquely snapped, "Do them yourself if you think they're good." Big Dipper choked. He hastily waved his hand to tell the manager to take everyone away upon seeing Yuan getting angry. After everyone left, Big Dipper was distraught with frustration at Yuan's increasing torment. "Ah, Sis Feng, if you really don't like those people, how about I sacrifice myself?" Yuan nearly spat out blood from this idiot. "Scram! All right." Big Dipper briskly bowed and slipped outside in fright, closing the door with a swish. Outside the door, Big Dipper and 7 Stars started conversing in anguish. "What should we do? Sis Feng doesn't like a single one of them. Sis Feng even dislikes someone with my looks. What in the world does she want?" Big Dipper sighed in despair. 7 Stars solemnly said, "We still have time, so tell them to keep looking and call over all the good-looking men in the alliance. We have no other choice. There has to be one that Sis Feng will take a liking to." 7 Star and Big Dipper diverged into 2 directions and secretly summoned 2 batches of decent-looking men to the Yuan residence. In the end, Yuan still didn't take a liking to a single one of them. Big Dipper had a pounding headache. "Can't we just randomly pick one? There isn't much time left. If we keep delaying it, Sis Feng will seriously die." 7 Star said gravely, "We can't. As that person said, this goo is called the mutually in love goo, so it was to be a man that Sis Feng likes. Otherwise, the result will be the same. She would die of bleeding from all crevices." "Damn! Why is this so troublesome?" Big Dipper raced toward Yuan. "Sis Feng, just what kind do you like? Tell me something specific." Yuan's vision was turning increasingly blurry, and she was slowly losing control of her consciousness. There was only one face dominating every scene in her mind. "Ha! I didn't expect to die from such an absurd cause before I found who I'm looking for, before I uncovered the whole truth." Big Dipper thought of something, and his expression shifted. He exclaimed, shit. Say, Sis Feng, you didn't take a liking to Emperor Ji, right? This is very difficult. I don't think I can do it. Emperor Ji is famous for being unattracted to women. It'd be very difficult for you to bang him. Big Dipper recalled how Yuanwan said, at least someone on Emperor Ji's level, back in the nightclub last time, and was shocked out of his mind. Even 7 Star's expression darkened. It truly wasn't possible if it was Emperor Ji. There were countless women who coveted Emperor Ji in the independent state, but not many actually dared to go after him. Yuanwan stepped on a chair with one foot and picked up the chilled tea on the table before splashing it on her face. After her mind cleared slightly, she glanced at the two of them and asked with raised brows, who said the one I like is Emperor Ji? Big Dipper instantly clutched his chest and relaxed. That's great, that's great. It's great it's not Emperor Ji. It's great. Who is it? A word from you, Sis Feng, and I'll definitely abduct that person for you. 7 Star also nodded. Who do you want, Sis Feng? There weren't many people in the independent state they couldn't get if the president of the Fearless Alliance wanted them. It would be fine even if they forcefully abducted them. Yuanwan looked down before glancing at Big Dipper and 7 Star. She casually tossed the teapot in her hand to the side and aloofly replied, Lord Azura. Chapter 1457 7 Star. Dead silence stifled the large room after Yuanwan said that, even the air seemed to stop flowing. 7 Star was shocked out of his wits while Big Dipper sprained his ankle and slammed into a nearby cabinet with a bang. He grimaced in pain and looked like he'd seen a ghost. Fuck me. Sis Feng. Who did you say you like? Yuanwan rolled her eyes. Lord Azura. What? Didn't you say you were going to help me abduct him? Big Dipper wanted to bawl. Sis Feng. Sis Feng, don't be so suicidal, you actually want to sleep with Lord Azura. Are you fucking seeking death? Last time, at Lord Azura's conference, he was merely casually joking about whether Sis Feng had a thing with Lord Azura or not. How could he have known that Sis Feng seriously coveted someone like Lord Azura? 7 Star's face was also dark. He was thinking the same thing as Big Dipper on this rare occasion. Yuanwan nonchalantly glanced at Big Dipper from the corners of her eyes. What? Why can't I sleep with Lord Azura? Perhaps she'd already slept with him. A glint flickered in Yuanwan's eyes as she recalled every detail of her meeting with Lord Azura. Although everything was flawless, she decided to bet that her instincts were right. She didn't have a plan to head to the ancient Sea clan and scout for information yet. Moreover, her current situation didn't give her any other choice, so why didn't she take a gamble? Big Dipper, help me invite Lord Azura here, Yuanwan ordered decisively. Big Dipper desperately wanted to give Yuanwan a kowtow. Sis Feng. Calm down. There's a knife above the character, sex. Although he always knew Sis Feng had a facial complex and liked good-looking people, he didn't expect her to be driven by her thirst to this extent. Stop blabbering. Do what I say. I naturally have my own reasons. Yuanwan snapped. What reason could you have, other than being blinded by your horniness? As Big Dipper roasted her, he was kicked out by her. Big Dipper and 7 Star had no choice but to leave the room with increasingly dark expressions. This is gonna cost us our lives, Big Dipper sighed in despair. 7 Star, do you still suspect Sis Feng of being a fake? 7 Star hesitated for a long while before choosing silence. Based on his expression, he probably believed 99% that the woman inside was by Feng. After all, they definitely couldn't find a second person in the independent state who had such a gutsy personality and thirst for good looks. As they conversed, Autumn Water rushed over. When Autumn Water saw their shaken appearances, she asked with a frown, 7 Star, Big Dipper, what happened? Why do you look like this? Isn't the Yuan family taken care of? She just received news that Patriarch Yuan died and the Yuan family devolved into chaos after turning leaderless, so 7-Star took advantage of the situation and seized their headquarters. Big Dipper looked miserable and hastily explained everything to Autumn Water. The Yuan family is taken care of, but something happened to Sis Feng. Xiao Feng. What happened to Xiao Feng? Did she get injured? Autumn Water looked worried. No, she was poisoned by goo. Old geezer Yuan wanted to drag someone down before he died, so Sis Feng was caught off guard and poisoned. What kind of goo? Is it serious? Autumn Water pressed swiftly. It's called mutually in love goo or something. She has to sleep with someone she likes to cure the goo. Big Dipper explained the situation briefly. Chapter 1458. After Autumn Water heard that, she laughed and relaxed. Wasn't that simple? She just had to call Emperor Ji here. However, Emperor Ji and Xiao Feng's relationship had to remain a secret, so she didn't tell 7-Star and Big Dipper who he was. She just said, I'll find him now. Before Big Dipper could reiterate the rest of the story, Autumn Water had walked swiftly away. Who's Autumn Water looking for? Does she know it's Lord Azura who Sis Feng likes? Even now, Big Dipper's legs and insides were trembling. He mumbled, Lord Azura is impossible. Utterly impossible to obtain for the rest of her life. Unless Autumn Water can invite Emperor Ji. Perhaps there's a tiny possibility of making Sis Feng fall in love with someone else, but how could that be possible? He was simply dreaming. These two bosses, both roads led to death. At the same time, in a large hall located in the northern part of the Yuan territory, the man sitting on the throne had a pair of bone-chilling eyes that struck fear into people. My lord, the Fearless Alliance attacked the Yuan family, and the Yuan family is currently asking for our assistance, a white-haired elderly man said while bowing underneath the throne. The Yuan family paid quite a large tribute to Azura every month, so they naturally received protection from Azura. Now, a faction was attacking the Yuan family. It was the same as mercilessly slapping Azura's face. A moment later, the man slowly stood up from his throne. His eyes, unfathomable like the stars, emitted an indescribable icy glint. No need to pay attention to them. The red-haired man standing to the side, Jiang Yan, shifted his expression and volunteered himself of his own accord. My lord, you have to attend to thousands of affairs every day, so we shouldn't trouble you with such a trivial matter. Please allow this subordinate to handle this matter. The Fearless Alliance has been acting increasingly arrogant these days. We absolutely can't allow them to run rampant any longer. Even if Lord Azura found it beneath his dignity to attack the Fearless Alliance, they couldn't allow continuous provocation from the Fearless Alliance to slide by like this. Jiang Yan was about to continue persuading Lord Azura when Lin Ke suddenly burst in like a gale of wind and rushed forward with a fiery expression. He covered Si Yihan's ears and said, Ninth brother. I just heard a piece of shocking news. The man wore an indifferent expression, evidently uninterested in Lin Ke's gossip. Lin Ke turned urgent and hastily whispered, after the Fearless Alliance took over the Yuan family's headquarters, Big Dipper and 7-Star suddenly secretly searched for a bunch of young and handsome pretty boys and fresh meat and brought them into the Yuan residence. Si Yihan's expression finally shifted minutely, and he spared Lin Ke a glance. Upon seeing this, Lin Ke quickly continued, to help you keep watch on that girl, I looked into it. Ninth brother, do you know what I discovered? Yi Wanwan was accidentally poisoned by goo during the fight with the Yuan family. What did you say? Dark clouds instantly gathered on Si Yihan's icy face. However, what did Wanwan being poisoned have to do with her subordinates urgently scouting young men? Lin Ke cautiously observed Si Yihan's expression as he said with trepidation, according to a reliable news source, that goo poison is called mutually in love goo. The poison victim must mate with another man or woman to relieve the poison. Otherwise, their mouths and tongues would get ulcers and they'll die by bleeding from all openings on their faces. When Lin Ke finished speaking, Si Yihan's eyes shattered like a mirror and lost all its calmness. Lin Ke didn't dare to conceal anything and resumed. While I was scouting for news, I also autumn water from the Fearless Alliance rushed out of the Yuan residence and seemed to be heading for Emperor Ji's estate. A second later, a crisp snap and Lin Ke watched blankly as the handle under Si Yihan's hand was crushed. Crushed. Chapter 1459. Lin Ke almost curled into a ball from the fright of seeing the crushed handle of the wooden chair. He cautiously distanced himself from Si Yihan before comforting him. Ninth brother, calm down. I'm not done yet. This goo poison can't be relieved by banging a random person. It must be with the man the victim likes or else it's useless. So, aren't you the only one who can relieve this goo poison, ninth brother? However, Si Yihan's expression didn't improve at all after hearing that and darkened a few degrees instead. Lin Ke suddenly thought of something and murmured, aghast, shit. Wait, what if that girl falls in love with someone else? As soon as he said that, the handle under Si Yihan's hand turned into complete smithereens. Jiang Yan, prepare the car. The man abruptly stood up, a blizzard mixed in his low voice. Jiang Yan was startled and promptly asked, may this subordinate ask where my lord is going? The Yuan residence. Jiang Yan's face filled with joy. Yes, this subordinate will prepare the car immediately. That's great. Lord Azura will finally attack the Fearless Alliance. The Yuan family elder next to Jiang family was also incredibly excited. Thank you, my lord, for standing up for my Yuan family. As long as my lord shows up, the Fearless Alliance will definitely become stricken with terror. He wondered what Lin Ke told Lord Azura that caused him to fly into a terrible rage like this and personally seek out the Fearless Alliance. Anyhow, the Fearless Alliance was going to die for sure. Upon seeing this, Lin Ke also panicked and rushed up. Hey, wait for me. I'm also going. I can disguise myself. I absolutely won't be discovered. Soon, a black car headed for the Yuan family headquarters occupied by the Fearless Alliance. At the same time, at the Yuan residence, dark clouds covered Seven Star and Big Dipper's faces. Big Dipper gulped. What should we do? Do we really have to go and abduct Lord Azura? Seven Star gave Big Dipper an unimpressed look. You've gone mad. Big Dipper pursed his lips. But Sis Feng specifically said she likes Lord Azura. What else can we do? Seven Star's brows tightly burrowed together, and he thought about it for a moment before saying, continue to send people to choose some young men. If the main store doesn't have any, go to the branches to get them. Pick some that resemble Lord Azura's looks and aura. Please. Is someone with Lord Azura's appearance and aura that easy to find? Big Dipper was rendered speechless. But we'll try it as a last resort to fix this hopeless situation. There's nothing else we can do. I'll deal with it immediately. Big Dipper hastily relayed the order before looking at the time on his watch. We don't have much time left. We'll probably have to make double preparations. We'll need to find fresh meat. But we'll also have to invite Lord Azura. Seven Star glanced at him like he was an idiot. Invite? How are planning to invite him? And what will you tell him after inviting him here? Ahem. I'll say that the president wants to invite him for sleeping. Seven Star, ah. Who cares? We'll discuss it after I make a trip to Azura. With Sis Feng's personality, if she takes a liking to someone, we can't pull her back even with 9 bulls. Of course, we might have some possibility of pulling her back if there's someone better looking, but the problem is, where could we find someone prettier looking than Lord Azura? While the duo anxiously racked their brains for a solution, a subordinate rushed inside in an utterly panicked manner. Lord Seven. Lord Seven. Not good. We're in big trouble. Chapter 1460, What are you making an uproar about? Big Dipper irritably admonished. What could be worse than Sis Feng's current situation? The subordinate gasped for air as he pointed at the main entrance and reported, Azura's people are here. What did you say? The Yuan family and Azura's people are on our doorstep. And Lord Azura also came here personally, the subordinate replied, terrified. Big Dipper and Seven Star met each other's eyes in shock. Damn, Big Dipper never would have expected Lord Azura to come here. Lord Big, Lord Seven, it's an important matter. Hurry and inform the president. The subordinate wiped off the sweat on his forehead. Big Dipper was about to speak when Seven Star interrupted him, no. We can't allow Sis Feng to see Lord Azura. Why? Big Dipper was anxious. With Sis Feng's current situation, we can't predict what she would do, explained Seven Star. Big Dipper nodded frantically. That's true. What if Sis Feng turns monstrous and does that to Lord Azura on the spot? That scene was simply unimaginable. Hold them off for now and carefully receive them in the living room. I'll come soon. Seven Star ordered the subordinate. The subordinate nodded and quickly left. Big Dipper was about to go insane. Ah! Lord Azura actually came to visit personally. He doesn't really want to destroy our fearless alliance, right? Seven Star rolled his eyes. Now you know to be afraid. What were you doing earlier? He didn't agree to attack before, but this guy kept urging Sis Feng to come. Big Dipper grumbled, how would I know it would turn out like this? Let's hurry and figure out what we should do first. First, we analyze the situation. Remember, we mustn't let Sis Feng know Lord Azura is here. After a brief conversation, the duo headed for the living room in the front. Lord Azura really did come personally, and there were a few elders from the Yuan family, Jiang family, and a guard-like man next to him. Welcome, Lord Azura. Pardon us for not going out to meet you. As soon as the elders from the Yuan family saw the two of them, they angrily glared at the duo. How dare you act like the host? This is our Yuan residence. Your fearless alliance came here to provoke us and killed our patriarch. You've gone too far. Seven Star's gaze chilled. Elder Li's words are remiss. It was clearly your Yuan family who terrorized a branch of our fearless alliance first. Our fearless alliance merely acted in self-defense. As for Patriarch Yuan's death, it was completely unrelated to us. He wanted to poison us with goo but killed himself instead out of carelessness. When Si Yihan, who remained silent, heard the words, poison us with goo, a cold glint flashed through his eyes. You're spouting utter nonsense, a Yuan family elder shouted furiously. Seven Star's expression didn't shift at all. Patriarch Yuan's corpse is in the rear courtyard. You can examine him yourself. He has only himself to thank for this. Big Dipper interjected indignantly. Not only that, but he caused Sis Feng to be so miserable. Jiang Yan coldly rebuked them. Who do you think you are? How dare you stand here and speak to our esteemed Lord Azura? Where's your president? Tell her to come out already. Seven Star said, apologies, but the president is feeling unwell today. You can speak to me if needed. A Yuan family elder snorted. Ha! Feeling unwell? I wager she's probably terrified, so she's hiding and is too scared to come out. Jiang Yan said next to Si Yihan's ears, my lord, it's true that the Fearless Alliance killed the patriarch of the Yuan family. We must give them an explanation. Si Yihan quietly sat in his spot, his expression frighteningly chilly. Lord Azura came to visit, but Yuan actually didn't show up despite being the president of the Fearless Alliance. Wan's situation was probably trickier than Lin Kei's description. Chapter 1461. Both Big Dipper and Seven Star didn't look too pleased. The Yuan family and Azura came on a rampage, and Lord Azura looked like he was hellbent on murder. It appeared it wouldn't end benignly this time, yet, Sis Feng just happened to encounter a mishap at this time, and the elders at the Fearless Alliance's headquarters were all watching them like a tiger watching its prey. If Azura really interfered, everything pointed to disaster. The atmosphere turned tense as each second passed, and everyone was on the verge of eruption. At this moment, the sound of footsteps was heard behind them. Explanation. May I ask what kind of explanation does His Highness Lord Azura want? Accompanied by a melodious and languid voice, Yuan appeared in front of everyone. As soon as Big Dipper saw Yuan, he became stunned. Sis Feng. Why did you come here? Yuan narrowed her eyes. What? Am I not allowed to come? No. Big Dipper shut his mouth instantly and hastily pulled out a chair for her. The moment Yuan appeared, the sitting man's gaze darted toward her instantly. Please give me a reason for this matter, President Bai. As Si Yihan spoke, he examined the girl imperceptibly. Yuan had walked there on pure willpower. It was just that outsiders couldn't see anything wrong with her due to her concealment, but the fine sweat covering her forehead and her deathly pale complexion still gave clues to her current abnormal condition. Yuan acted like the intense numbing and pain plaguing her didn't exist and smiled aloofly as she casually said, "Do I need a reason to want to fight?" She had made preparations ahead of time to handle this situation. Even if Azura's people really sought them out, the Yuan family wasn't standing on the side of reason for this matter. Moreover, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Their fearless alliance couldn't be shaken this easily by just anyone. With Lord Azura's sophistication, there was no way he would have a complete fallout with the fearless alliance because of the mere Yuan family. He should know who was more important. Based on the matter last time, Lord Azura was very shrewd and ruthless and handled matters flawlessly. Hence, she wasn't worried about this. However, she didn't anticipate Lord Azura would come personally this time. Was it just a coincidence? Everyone was rendered speechless when they heard Yuan's words. The Yuan family elder frothed with rage. Lord Azura, Your Highness, look. She's clearly provoking us malevolently and is looking down on you. Yuan didn't sit down on the chair that Big Dipper pulled out. Instead, she sat down on the chair next to Si Yihan without any regards and nonchalantly propped her head on her hand while unwaveringly staring at him. There was only a small square table separating them, and their breaths mingled together. When Yuan heard the Yuan family elder's words, she raised her brows. Look down on Lord Azura. How could I? All I see is His Highness, Lord Azura. No matter what, Lord Azura came with perfect timing. When Lord Azura heard her words and saw his reflection in the girl's bewitching and dazzling eyes, his eyes flickered imperceptibly and he turned evasive for a moment. Lin Ke, disguised as the guard next to Lord Azura, couldn't help but choke and break into coughs, but he scrambled to calm down when he met Si Yihan's warning gaze. Upon detecting the girl's approach, Si Yihan imperceptibly withdrew the hand that he laid on the table and placed it on the handle of his chair instead. Chapter 1462 However, Yuan clearly didn't look like she intended to back down. Your Highness, Lord Azura, what do you think? Seven Star lowered his voice and reminded her, Sis Feng, you can't. Big Dipper also frantically wiped off his sweat of fright upon seeing his president flirting with Lord Azura in front of everyone. He hastily said, Sis Feng, don't act rashly. If she offended Lord Azura at a time like this, things wouldn't end well. Yuan exasperatedly glanced at her right and left hand before calmly saying, it's inconvenient to speak with so many people around. How about we talk privately, Lord Azura? When Seven Star and Big Dipper heard that, they were wrought with anxiety. Shit! Talk privately? How could they allow these two to be together by themselves at a time like this? A Yuan family elder shouted angrily, Vixen, what trick do you want to play now? Yuan chuckled lightly and was about to speak when an intense wave of pain crashed through her body. Caught off guard, her mask fractured for a moment and her complexion turned white as paper. Thankfully, it only lasted a few seconds, and the people from Azura and the Yuan family didn't notice anything. At this moment, a low male voice was heard, leave. Jiang Yan turned anxious. My lord, you can't. What if she harms you, Lin Ke immediately interjected, Jiang Yan, you're acting presumptuously. How dare you disobey our Lord's orders? Are you doubting our Lord's capabilities? Do you think our Lord isn't capable? Leave already. As Lin Ke said that, he inwardly complained, I knew it'd be like this. That girl merely showed a tinge of discomfort, and ninth brother instantly tossed every principle to the back of his mind. In the end, Jiang family had no choice but to comply and retreat with gritted teeth. The elders from the Yuan family also followed them and left hurriedly. Who was Lord Azura? He didn't believe this girl could seriously play any tricks. The people from Azura also quickly obeyed the order and retreated. Upon seeing 7-Star and Big Dipper standing there still, Yuan glanced at them and asked nonchalantly, what are you standing around for? Do you think you aren't bright enough? 7-Star, Big Dipper, we got rejected for being light bulbs. Big Dipper's eyes shifted as he thought of something. He leaned next to Yuan's ears and said, Sis Feng, can you come with me? I have something to tell you. Yuan followed Big Dipper to the side. Big Dipper suppressed his voice and said next to her ear, Sis Feng, do you need me to help you? I have a good idea. Yuan glanced at him. Help me how? Big Dipper rubbed his hands metaphorically. Well, I'll add some hallucinogens to Lord Azura's tea. Won't you be able to do whatever you want to him then? Aren't I so clever, Sis Feng? Yuan dryly glanced at him and narrowed her eyes dangerously. You think I need to drug a man in order to freaking sleep with him, huh? Big Dipper was scared witless instantly. No, that's not what I meant. Sis Feng, your beauty captivates even the birds and beasts and exceeds the natural world. If you take a liking to a man, who could resist? But, what Big Dipper didn't say was, but you just had to take a liking to Lord Azura. How could an ultimate great devil like Lord Azura be considered a normal man? In the end, 7-Star and Big Dipper were forcibly kicked out by Yuan. Time was ticking. Even if it was a risk, they had to let Sis Feng try. Sis Feng is too awful. She forgets her brothers as soon as she has a beauty with her. She actually kicked me out. 7-Star felt his head aching as he glanced at Big Dipper. Was that the main point? I wonder whether Autumn Water figured out a solution, 7-Star muttered pensively. What solution could she possibly think of? As Big Dipper said that, he secretly snuck to the door, and rustling was heard as he did something. 7-Star walked over and asked with a frown, what are you doing? Big Dipper locked the door while saying, I'm going to seal the door superglued shut. I'll make sure Sis Feng can successfully do her business. 7-Star. Chapter 1463, 1463 Yuan and Lord Azura were the only two remaining inside the room following everyone's departure. After the numbing and aching that reached the bone marrow passed, she was enveloped in a pain that made her feel like she was swallowed by the lava from a volcano. It was a pain worse than death. She didn't know how she maintained her calm facade in front of everyone. That cursed nameless Nye. In the end, if it weren't for that idiot eating from both sides, she wouldn't become the victim of such an odd goo poison. Now, how nice of them. They just dusted off their pants and left while she was about to lose her life. Lord Azura placed down the teacup in his hand and looked at her. President Bai, please speak frankly. Speak frankly. Okay, Yuan nodded and proceeded to ask, Your Highness, Lord Azura, are you tired? The man looked bewildered. Yuan scooted over and propped her chin on her hand as she explained, If you're tired, how about we sleep for a while before talking? Si Yihan was silent for a moment before saying, No need. Yuan didn't look surprised, but she did look regretful. Her fiery gaze locked onto the man as she slowly said, Then. I can only use peaceful means before resorting to force. After Yuan said that, she leaned forward without warning, and her soft lips covered the man's lips without any hesitation. When her soft but boiling lips landed on his expression finally changed. His pitch-black and icy eyes dilated, and his hands raised slightly as though he wanted to push her away, but they froze in the air. A few seconds passed before he finally pushed her away. His low and rough voice sounded a bit tense. "President Bai, please respect yourself." Yi Wanwan breathed heavily. "Respect myself your ass." If the person in front of her was truly Si Yihan and he was determined to conceal his identity from her, she definitely wouldn't win against him with his intelligence. When she realized that, defeat overwhelmed her heart. An intense pain suddenly radiated from her heart, and her face turned white as paper as she tightly clutched her chest. "Ah, you!" The man immediately reached out to support the collapsing girl. Si Yihan's face didn't look so good. Did she really get poisoned by this goo poison that he had never heard of? Yi Wanwan swallowed the blood in her mouth and took a deep breath before standing up. "Lord Azura, please leave." The man frowned lightly. Cold sweat drenched Yi Wanwan's forehead. She chuckled and said, "My sincere apologies, but to be truthful, Lord Azura, I'm truly not well enough to receive guests today. Patriarch Yuan poisoned me with mutually in love goo, and I need to have sex with the person I like within 12 hours to dissolve the goo. Now. I only have 2 hours left." Si Yihan's expression changed completely upon hearing that. Yi Wanwan didn't sound like she was lying, and the effects on her body couldn't be faked. If he didn't help her relieve the poison now, she might die. If he helped her relieve the poison, there was an extremely high possibility he'd expose his identity. She greatly suspected him to begin with. "I'm truly sorry. I need to go relieve this poison first." Yi Wanwan's words were essentially the same as, "I need to go find a man I like and sleep with him first." Si Yihan's hold on the girl's fingers tightened abruptly. At this moment, a commotion was suddenly heard from outside the door. "Big Dipper, 7 star. Where's Xiaofeng? Why are you two standing here? Why's this door locked?" Autumn Water asked in incomprehension upon arriving and seeing this current situation. Chapter 1464, "How's your president?" The man next to Autumn Water also inquired. When Big Dipper saw the man who spoke, he felt like he was struck by lightning. Shit. Emperor Ji. Autumn Water actually managed to call Emperor Ji here. Big Dipper wasn't the only one stupefied, 7 star also looked stunned. "Why are you standing around? Hurry and bring us to see Xiaofeng. There's not much time left." Autumn Water anxiously urged. "Is Xiaofeng in there?" Yes. But, Big Dipper was still stuck in a stupor. "Then hurry and open the door." Autumn Water pressed. "Autumn Water, aren't you too awesome? How did you trick Emperor Ji into coming here?" Big Dipper asked after dragging her to the side. "Don't ask how I called him here. Hurry and let us see Xiaofeng." Big Dipper covertly glanced at the room and replied with an awkward expression, "I can't. Sis Feng is a bit occupied right now." Autumn Water hounded, "Occupied? What do you mean? Don't tell me you randomly found someone for Xiaofeng. Utter nonsense. Didn't you say it can only be treated by someone she liked?" "No. We didn't randomly find someone. Big Dipper didn't know what to say. Should he tell her they tricked Lord Azura in there? Crash. A broken clatter was heard from inside the room. Xiaofeng. Xiaofeng, what happened? Big Dipper, what in the world are you doing? Hurry and open the door. Autumn Water snatched the key from Big Dipper and hastily opened the door. After the door opened, Autumn Water, Emperor Ji, and the others entered immediately. Broken pieces of porcelain from the teacup littered the floor, and Yi Wanwan looked weak and pale while the man next to her carefully supported her body. When Autumn Water saw the man inside the room, she was dumbstruck. Lord Azura, why is Lord Azura here? Autumn Water turned to Big Dipper and Seven Star, dumbfounded, and sent them an inquiring gaze. It was Seven Star who answered. Lord Azura is here because of the matter with the Yuan family. Big Dipper lowered his voice and said, Autumn Water, you know how urgent Sisfeng's situation was. So we thought, perhaps there was an off chance that Lord Azura could help Sisfeng get rid of the poison. Black lines covered Autumn Water's face. You've gone mad. Where did you get the guts, Big Dipper? Big Dipper felt wronged to death. It definitely wasn't him who was gutsy, alright? However, based on Lord Azura and Sisfeng's dressed state, nothing happened yet probably. Thankfully, their president still retained some rationality. Yi Wanwan was surprised when she saw Emperor Ji entering. Ji Shuran, why are you here? How sinful. From the looks of it, it was Autumn Water who called him there. Why did she feel like she was caught in the act of cheating with Ji Shuran's arrival? When the man next to Yi Wanwan saw the newcomer, his expression also darkened a few degrees. Last time, he had Lin Ke look into the matter, but he didn't uncover anything about the relationship between Emperor Ji and Bai Feng. Judging from Emperor Ji's attitude toward Wanwan though, there had to be some secret. At the very least, Emperor Ji had to have had an unusual relationship with Wanwan before she lost her memory. At the same time, Ji Shuran also looked at Si Yihan silently for a moment before turning to Yi Wanwan with a faintly discernible smile on his face. He nonchalantly answered, I came to help you cure your poison. Help me, cure my poison. A strange silence descended on the room following Ji Shuran's words. Chapter 1465. The warmth in Si Yihan's eyes receded instantly and they turned into a blanket of ice and snow. As for Yi Wanwan, she was utterly dumbfounded. Help me, cure my poison. But there didn't seem to be anything wrong with those words based on Bai Feng and Emperor Ji's relationship. Big Dipper coughed violently. Huh. Shit. Not only did they really invite Emperor Ji here, but he also wanted to help Sisfeng cure her poison. Did he know what he was saying? Emperor Ji's lips turned up with a faint smile. Is there a problem with that? Yi Wanwan, no way would she dare to say there was a problem. If she said that, wouldn't she be exposing her fake identity as Bai Feng? After another wave of awkwardness, an elderly man walked out from the back and asked, Excuse me, who's the one poisoned by goo? Emperor Ji led the elderly man toward the front. It's her. Thank you for your trouble, Elder Qi. Who is this elderly sir? Yi Wanwan was lost as she looked at this white-haired elderly man in front of her. It's the doctor I invited here to help cure your poison. Elder Qi is an expert in relieving goo, Emperor Ji answered. Yi Wanwan heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing that and clapped her chest. So you invited a doctor here to help me cure the goo, what a fright. Emperor Ji smiled aloofly, how should I help you cure it otherwise? Yi Wanwan choked a little. Emperor Ji smiled and said, we can use another method if you want. No. Yi Wanwan hastily extended her hand to allow the elderly doctor to examine her. Elder Qi laid his fingers over Yi Wanwan's pulse and started examining her. About 10 minutes later, the elderly man finished feeling her pulse. He looked a bit stunned, as though he ran into some unexpected circumstances. This, Elder Qi, is there a solution to Xiao Feng's mutually in love goo? The person who developed the goo said it was solvable. Autumn Water pressed worriedly. The white-haired elderly man combed through his beard with a serious expression. Originally, it was solvable, but President Bai isn't poisoned by mutually in love goo. Not mutually in love goo. What is it then? Big Dipper asked. Everyone in the room turned to the elderly man. President Bai isn't poisoned by mutually in love goo, she's poisoned by the king of goo, love goo. Elder Qi replied. Big Dipper and Seven Star were shocked. Love goo. Yi Wanwan weakly supported herself against the table. And what's love goo? What Yu Wanwan didn't notice was that Si Yihan's expression shifted after hearing the words, love gu. Emperor Ji glanced at her before explaining, perhaps not many people know about mutually in love gu, but quite a number of people know about the king of gu, love gu. Many members of the Gu Miao tribe can only successfully refine love gu once in their lifetime. How can it be cured? Yi Wanwan asked. Elder Qi said, normally, girls would poison the boy they liked with love gu to make them desperate in love and devoted to them. The mother gu would be in the girl's body while the child gu would be in the guy's body. If the man fornicated with her after truly falling in love with her within 3 months, they'd survive. Otherwise, both people would die from poison. Si Yihan, Yi Wanwan was stupefied after hearing that. Mutually in love gu only required her to like the other person, whereas love gu required the other person to fall in love with her. One was easy mode while the other was freaking difficult mode. Chapter 1466. Yi Wanwan felt dizzy. Wait, you said the mother gu is inside the girl while the child gu is inside the man, but am I not the only one poisoned by gu? So where's the child gu? The white-haired elderly man replied, you'd have to ask yourself where the child gu is, President Bai. Who did you cast it to? Yi Wanwan was aghast. Ask myself? How would I know who I cast it to? I didn't cast it to anyone. Wait. Yi Wanwan's expression abruptly changed. After coming to the Yuan residence, only 2 people were poisoned by gu. Aside from herself, the other person was Patriarch Yuan. It freaking couldn't be Patriarch Yuan, right? Moreover, Patriarch Yuan was freaking dead already. Sweat seeped out of Yi Wanwan's forehead. If it really was Patriarch Yuan, she would rather die. She was the one who got cast by gu, Emperor Ji explained. Elder Qi pondered over it for a long while before discovering the cause. So it's like that. President Bai, your situation is a bit complicated. The gu inside your body probably was mutually in love gu at first, which is a mutation of love gu, but due to some unknown accident, the mutually in love gu successfully transformed into love gu after entering your body, transformed into love gu. Yi Wanwan repeated. That's right. You can interpret it as an evolution. It's a rare situation, but it's not completely unheard of. Yi Wanwan wore an FML expression. That's a thing. Could I be any more unlucky? The elderly man continued, the moment the mutually in love gu successfully evolves into love gu, it breaks into mother and child gu. The mother gu would stay inside your body while the child gu would enter the body of the first man you have intimate contact with. When I examined your pulse just now, President, your body only contains mother gu, so you must have cast the child gu to someone else already. Yi Wanwan gulped. The body of the first man I have intimate contact with. Well, the only good news was that it probably wasn't Patriarch Yuan since she didn't even touch him once. The elderly man replied, that's right. So can you please try to remember if there was someone you had intimate contact with during this period of time, President? Then we'll know whose body contains the child gu. Everyone's gazes landed on Yi Wanwan. Autumn Water pressed urgently, Xiao Feng, who did you have intimate contact with? Yi Wanwan rubbed her head. Hold on, let me confirm something first. Elderly sir, what degree of intimacy are you referring to when you say intimate contact? Don't tell me that a mere kiss would cast the gu onto someone. The elderly man nodded. You can. You can transmit it through saliva. Yi Wanwan held her head speechlessly, looking like she was on the brink of a breakdown. Emperor Ji's eyes glinted, and he imperceptibly glanced at the man next to Yi Wanwan. Xiao Feng, just who is it? Who did you cast the child gu to? Autumn Water asked anxiously. Yi Wanwan was about to collapse. Don't ask, okay? How should I answer? Should I say I planted the child gu in Lord Azura's body in front of Emperor Ji? While Yuanwan was entangled in turmoil, everyone saw Lord Azura pushing the sleeve of his suit upwards slightly and adjusting it before extending his wrist toward the white-haired elderly man. He looked at him and said, "Please feel my pulse for me." Elder Qi was startled. Why did this person suddenly want him to feel his pulse? The man's aura was too imposing, so the elderly man reflexively obeyed his order without much thinking and bent down, carefully placing his fingers on the man's wrist and feeling his pulse. At the same time, everyone's gazes shot toward the doctor. 1 second passed, 10 seconds passed, 1 minute passed. The elderly man examined him 3 or 4 whole times, his expression shifting again and again, before finally raising his head. First, he looked at Emperor Ji, then Yuanwan, then Emperor Ji again. The child Gu, is inside this mister's body, Autumn Water. 7-star, Big Dipper facepalmed, at a loss for words. He had never been disappointed in Sis Feng's guts. She actually dared to make advances on Lord Azura. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.